My son texted me 4 days before Christmas, "You're not coming to lunch. Brooke doesn't want you there." My name is Stuart Talloway. I'm 69 years old, I live in Tauranga, and 2 years ago a neurologist told me I have early-stage Alzheimer's disease. That text came from Aaron, the son I gave $610,000 to so he could own a house. The son who stood at his mother's graveside and promised her he'd look after me. What Aaron didn't know was that the night before he sent that text, I'd seen what was sitting in the boot of his Uda. A folder of family court documents with my name typed across the front. An application to have me declared incapable of managing my own affairs, with Aaron appointed to manage them for me. Every dollar. Every decision. Where I live. Who I'm allowed to see. People assume a dementia diagnosis makes you helpless. It doesn't. It just makes people stop watching you carefully. And when the man you're trying to rob spent 43 years investigating fraud for one of the biggest banks in New Zealand, not watching him carefully is an expensive mistake. Stay with me, because what I did next ended up in front of a judge, and it didn't go the way my son planned. Let me take you back so you understand how we got here. My wife Lynette died 4 years ago. Bowel cancer. 41 years married, and at the end I was spooning ice chips into her mouth in Tauranga Hospital while she made me promise 2 things. Don't rattle around that big house alone, and look after Aaron. He's not as strong as he acts, Stu, she said. He needs steering. I should have asked her what to do when the person you're steering starts steering you toward a cliff. After Lynette went, I sold our place in Pies Paw. For bedrooms, big section, her roses out front that I couldn't look at without going to pieces. Aaron had an idea about the money before the sold sticker was even on the sign. "Dad, you should help us buy properly," he said over fish and chips at the Mount. "Brooke and I are getting hammered by the mortgage. You put in, we get a decent place near the water, and one day it all stays in the family anyway. It's just bringing the inheritance forward. Everyone does it now." Aaron's a mortgage broker. 38 years old, leased Ford Ranger, talks about leverage the way other blokes talk about rugby. His wife Brooke is 34 and runs what she calls a wellness brand from their spare room, green smoothies, sunrise yoga on the deck, 4,000 followers and a ring light that cost more than my first car. I'm not having a go. I just want you to see them the way I saw them then, young, flash, a bit silly with money, but family. So I did it. $610,000 from the sale of the house Lynette and I spent our lives paying off. It cleared the bulk of the purchase on a brick and tile place in Matua with a sea glimpse if you stood on the deck rail. They carried a small mortgage for the rest, and because their repayments were brutal, Dad, honestly, I quietly covered $2,300 a month of it from my pension and savings. Have done ever since. Now, here's the part that matters, and I want you to hear it properly, because it's the only smart thing I did in that whole period of my life. My solicitor, Judith Olson, had done my taxes legal side and Lynette's estate, and when I told her what I was doing she put her pen down and looked at me over her glasses like a school principal. "Stuart, I will not let you hand over $600,000 as a gift with nothing in writing. We document it as an interest-free loan, repayable on demand, and we register a caveat against the title so the property can't be sold or borrowed against without you knowing." Aaron was filthy about it. "What, you don't trust me? It's humiliating, Dad. My own father making me sign loan papers like I'm a stranger off the street. I nearly caved. God help me, I nearly caved. But Judith held the line, Aaron signed in a sulk, and I told myself it was just paperwork that would never matter. Remember that paperwork. It's the reason I'm not in a care home right now. 18 months after they moved in, I had my diagnosis. I'd been losing words, ordinary ones, like cattle and letterbox. I drove to New World one morning and sat in the car park for 10 minutes because I couldn't remember why I'd come. Dr. Priya Sharma at the memory clinic was straight with me, which I appreciated. Early stage Alzheimer's, Stuart. It's not a cliff, it's a slope. You'll have clear days and foggy days. With your medication taken on time, routine, sleep, and low stress, the clear days can stay in the majority for a good while yet. She was right. On a clear day, I can do the Herald crossword and tell you the difference between a forged signature and a traced one. I gave evidence on exactly that in court more than once in my banking days. On a foggy day, I once stood in my own kitchen holding the jug and couldn't have told you my street name. And here's what I noticed, slowly. The way you notice the tide's gone out, the worse my diagnosis sounded, the smaller I became to my son. The Sunday roast stopped. Then the phone calls shortened. Brooke stopped looking at me when she talked, like I was a chair that occasionally made noise. Last winter she posted photos from a big family-style dinner at their place, her parents, her sister, Aaron carving a leg of lamb. The caption said everything I need under one roof. I found out about that dinner from the photos, same as her 4,000 followers did. Then came the little humiliations. Aaron speaking to me in that bright, slow voice. Have we taken our pills today, Dad? Do we remember what Dr. Sharma said? Like I was a toddler we were managing. One afternoon at their place I had a wobble, got muddled about the day, asked where Lynette was, just for a moment, before the fog lifted. When it lifted, I saw Brooke with her phone up, filming me. I heard her in the kitchen afterward, not as quietly as she thought. Babe, that's exactly what I'm talking about. People need to see what he's actually like. What he's actually like. I raised that boy. I taught him to get a snapper and drive a manual and shake hands like he meant it. And I'd become content. Then came the Thursday in December that split my life in two. I was at their place dropping off the monthly payment confirmation. I still printed them, force of habit from the bank. Aaron was in the shower, Brooke was filming on the deck, and the Uda was in the garage with the boot open and his work bag sitting there. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for a pen. What I found, in a manila folder under his brochures, was an application to the family court under the Protection of Personal and Property Rights Act. Typed neatly. My full name. A request for orders declaring that Stuart James Calloway lacked the capacity to manage his property and personal affairs, and appointing Aaron Calloway as manager of my property and my welfare guardian. There was an affidavit, signed by my son, describing me as a danger to myself. There was a glossy brochure for a place called Harborview Care, the cheapest secure dementia unit in the Bay of Plenty, I later learned, $3,400 a month. And there was a letter from a second-tier lender pre-approving a top-up loan of $210,000 against the Machua house. The house with my caveat on it. The house bought with Lynette's roses. I stood in that garage and the strangest thing happened. The fog I live with every day rolled back like someone had opened a window, and 43 years of training switched on. Because I'd seen this before. Not in my family, across a desk, in case files. The bank used to send me the elder ones because I had patience for them. A widow in Gisborne whose nephew managed her accounts down to nothing. An old sheep farmer near Te Awamutu whose daughter got power of attorney and got herself a new Hilux the same month. I knew the shape of this thing the way a doctor knows a shadow on an X-ray. I put the folder back exactly as I'd found it, drove home, sat at my kitchen table, and did what I'd done my whole career. I opened a fresh notebook and I started a file. Friday morning I rang Judith Olson. She didn't sugarcoat it. Stuart, if the court grants those orders, you lose the legal right to run your own life. Aaron would control your bank accounts, your pension, your medical decisions, where you live. If he says Harborview, you go to Harborview. If he decides certain people upset you, your friends, your doctor, anyone, he can restrict contact. It's designed to protect vulnerable people. In the wrong hands it's the cleanest robbery ever invented, because the court hands over the keys. And the loan pre-approval? He can't borrow against the house. My caveat, he can't settle a loan with your caveat there, no. Which tells me the plan has two steps. First he gets appointed manager of your property. Then he, acting as you, withdraws your own caveat and forgives your own loan. You'd be legally erasing your own protection, with your son holding the pen. I had to put the phone down on the bench for a second. My own hand, holding his pen. When's the hearing, Stuart? The document said the 22nd of January. Then we have a few weeks. And Stuart, from this moment, you take your medication on time every single day, you sleep, you write everything down, and you do not have one more conversation with Aaron without a witness or a recording. In New Zealand you can lawfully record a conversation you're part of. Use that. Saturday, the text arrived. You're not coming to Christmas lunch. Brooke doesn't want you there. She thinks it's too much with your condition. I sat looking at it for a long time. The cruelty wasn't the words. The cruelty was the timing. He'd already signed an affidavit calling me incompetent, already picked up a locked ward, and he still couldn't stomach passing me the gravy first. I typed back one word, righto. Then I rang the bank and canceled the automatic payment. $2,300 a month, every month for 3 years, gone like a light switched off. And I asked Judith to draft a formal letter of demand on the documented loan. All $610,000, repayable on demand, as Aaron had signed and sulked about. Demand made. The phone call came on the 27th of December. Aaron, voice high and tight. Dad, what the hell? The payment didn't go through, and there's a lawyer's letter saying, is this a joke? Have you lost it completely? You can't demand 600 grand, we don't have 600 grand. Funny thing, I said. According to the affidavit you signed for the family court, I'm not capable of managing money at all. Yet here I am, managing it. You can't have it both ways, son. Silence. The kind of silence where you can hear a man's whole plan falling over. We need to talk, he finally said. Tonight. Our place. I'll be there at 7, I said. And I put my little recorder, the one I'd used for case interviews since the 90s, in my shirt pocket. They were both at the kitchen bench when I arrived. Brooke had turned the ring light off for once. I laid it all out on their stone bench top, one document at a time, the way I used to in interview rooms. Photocopy of the court application. The Harborview brochure. The loan pre-approval. Aaron went gray. Brooke went very still. Aaron, she said slowly, what is this? You told me you were looking into support options. This says welfare guardian. This says he can't make his own decisions. Babe, his doctor literally, I'm protecting him, Aaron said. And protecting us. Brooke, you've seen him. The episodes. You filmed one yourself. I filmed it because you told me Dr. Sharma needed examples. Her voice cracked up an octave. You said it was for his medical file. I put my phone on the bench, rang Dr. Sharma's after-hours line, and put her on speaker. I'd warned her I might. Dr. Sharma, it's Stuart Calloway. I'm with my son and his wife. Could you tell them what you told me at my November assessment? Her voice filled their kitchen, calm as Sunday. Stuart has early-stage Alzheimer's with fluctuating cognition. At his most recent assessment he scored within the range of full decision-making capacity. He manages his finances, medication, and household independently. There is no clinical basis for a property order or welfare guardianship at this time, and if asked by the court, that is exactly what my report will say. Brooke turned and looked at her husband like she'd never met him. One more question, doctor, I said. What happens if someone files an affidavit with a court describing incidents that never happened? That's not a medical question, Stuart. That's a question for the police. I ended the call. Then I opened my notebook and read aloud from Aaron's own affidavit. That on the 14th of October I'd been found wandering on Chapel Street unable to say where I lived. Brooke frowned. The 14th? We were in Queenstown the whole of that week. For my birthday. That I'd been making large irrational purchases I had no memory of. What purchases? Brooke said. Aaron said nothing. That my home was unsafe and unsanitary. Brooke had been at my home 3 weeks earlier, eating my pikelets at my spotless table. Then I slid one last paper across the bench. Their own bank statement, they'd left the mail rack right by the door, and Aaron of all people should have known better. Joint account balance, $412. 3 credit cards near the limit. And a column of payments to 2 online betting sites that made my chest go cold. $800 here. $1,200 there. Week after week after week. You're not trying to protect me from my condition, I said quietly. You're trying to use my condition to cover your own hole. How deep is it, Aaron? And my boy who I taught to count change at the dairy, put his face in his hands and said, Dad, we're drowning. Without your money we lose everything. Brooke walked out of the room. I heard the bedroom door shut. I picked up my papers, and at the front door Aaron grabbed my arm, and for 1 second I saw something in his eyes that frightened me more than any court document. Not shame. Calculation. You're having a clear day today, Dad, he said softly. But you don't get to choose your days. And the court only needs to see one bad one. I should have understood right then exactly what he meant. I didn't. That mistake nearly finished me. 2 weeks later, mid-January, Aaron rang sounding like a different man. Warm. Sorry. Dad, the brokerage end of year due got moved to January this year. It's Friday night at the office. Brooke and I have been talking. We got things badly wrong. Come along, let me introduce you around properly. Please. Let's start fixing this before the court date. Maybe we can withdraw the whole thing. Every instinct from 43 years of fraud work said don't go. But he's my son, and hope makes fools of fathers. I went. I can tell you now what I couldn't see then. The function started at 6, which meant leaving home before my evening medication. The room was hot, loud, strange, 60 people, music, lights. Every condition Dr. Sharma had ever warned me about, arranged like furniture. For the first hour I was fine. Better than fine, I talked interest rates with Aaron's branch manager and did compounding sums in my head for a young fella who pulled out his phone to check me and laughed when I was right. Then around 7:30, the room started to tilt. Words went thick in my mouth. I reached for the year and it wasn't there. I reached for the name of the city and it wasn't there. And through the fog I saw Brooke, 10 feet away, phone up, filming. Aaron's arm came around my shoulders, and in a voice pitched perfectly to Carrie he said, It's all right, Dad. Do you know where you are? Do you remember my name? Somewhere in the room someone murmured, God, the poor old boy. I heard myself ask for Lynette. I heard Aaron say, gently, for the audience, Mom's been gone 4 years, Dad. They drove me home in the Ranger. Aaron talked the whole way about how after tonight we had to be realistic about Harborview. I sat in the passenger seat coming slowly back to myself, and by the time we reached my letterbox the fog had lifted enough for me to understand, with terrible clarity, that I had just starred in the Crown exhibit for my own committal. Staged, lit, and filmed. One bad day, manufactured to order, 8 days before the hearing. Here's where I tell you about my people. Because this is the part nobody warns you about when you get a diagnosis like mine. Your memory may fail, but if you've lived decently, other people remember for you. Saturday morning, Heather Boyd was at my door with a thermos and a banana cake. Heather ran my investigations team's admin for 22 years. She's 71 now and sharper than a new chisel. I told her everything. She put her reading glasses on, spread my file across the table, and said, Right. This is the Whitcomb case all over again, except this time the silly old beggar they're trying to roll is you. Then she rang Barry Hughes, retired detective sergeant, who I'd helped untangle a forged check mess for his late mum in 2011. Barry came round that afternoon with his laptop and that coppa's face that never quite switches off. By Monday, Barry had pulled threads I couldn't reach. Aaron was 4 months behind on the Ranger lease. His broker registration was hanging by a compliance complaint I knew nothing about. And the loan pre-approval, the $210,000, had been obtained with an application stating that I, Stuart Calloway, received income from the Calloway Family Trust of $3,400 a month. There is no Calloway family trust. Never has been. My son had invented a trust on a signed credit application to a registered lender. In my old job we had a simple name for that. And look at the figure, Heather said quietly. $3,400 a month. Same as Harborview's fee. He's already built you into the budget, Stu. Your savings pay the home, the fictional trust dresses up the loan, and once he's your property manager he pays himself a management fee on top. Your money would last about 5 years. Then you'd be a broke old man in a locked ward, and he'd be debt-free. Dr. Sharma saw me Sunday morning, ran the full battery, and wrote it up, cognition within capacity range, Friday's episode consistent with missed medication plus acute stress and overstimulation, situational confusion, not progression. Then she asked me the question straight, Stuart, do you believe the circumstances on Friday were created deliberately? When I said yes, she didn't blink. Then I'm noting suspected psychological elder abuse and making a report. This pattern has a name. It's called staging, and you are not the first patient I've seen it done to. The hearing was the 22nd of January, Tauranga Family Court, a small brown room that smelled of carpet cleaner. Aaron arrived in his good suit with a lawyer. Brooke sat behind him looking like she hadn't slept. I had Judith, Dr. Sharma, Heather, and Barry, and a folder Heather had tabbed in 3 colors. Aaron's lawyer played the video. And I'll be honest with you, watching it was the worst moment of the whole affair. There I was on the screen, frightened and small, asking for my dead wife, while my son held my shoulders like a saint. The judge, a gray-haired woman with a stillness about her, watched it twice. Then it was our turn. Dr. Sharma's report. The medication timeline. The Queenstown booking confirmations proving Aaron was 300 kilometers away on the date his affidavit swore he found me wandering on Chapel Street. The non-existent trust on the loan application, side by side with the Harborview fee schedule, the figures matching to the dollar. And then Judith said, Your Honor, Mr. Calloway Sr. recorded a conversation at his son's home on the 27th of December, and my old recorder's flat little speaker said into that silent room, Dad, we're drowning. Without your money we lose everything. The judge took off her glasses. She declined every order Aaron had asked for. She said words I will hear on my deathbed, the applicant has not demonstrated that his father lacks capacity. He has, however, gone some distance toward demonstrating something else, and I am referring this file to the police. And she looked at Aaron the way you look at something on your shoe. It came apart for him quickly after that, the way these things do. The lender's fraud team, some of those people I trained, as it happens, confirmed the false application, and the police charged him with obtaining by deception and using a forged document. He'd traced my signature onto a consent form, traced it, the one thing I'd given expert evidence about for half my career, and done it badly. His broker registration was cancelled. The brokerage let him go the same week. Brooke filed for separation in March. Her lawyer's papers said he'd concealed gambling losses of $91,000 from her, and for what it's worth, I believe she truly didn't know the worst of it. She came to see me once, before she moved back to her parents in Hamilton. She stood on my porch and said, I filmed you, and I'm ashamed of that, and I'll be ashamed of it for the rest of my life. I told her shame is only useful if you let it change you. I hope she does. In August, Aaron stood in the district court and pleaded guilty. 14 months imprisonment. The judge said the breach of trust against a vulnerable parent put it beyond home detention. My son went to prison, and people ask me, they ask me at the support group, they asked me in the comments of my own life, so to speak, how could you let your own boy go inside? And I give them the answer I've earned, I didn't send Aaron to prison. Aaron sent Aaron to prison, one signature at a time, and the only choice I ever had was whether to be his victim or his witness. I'd already been his father. That hadn't stopped him. The Mantua house was sold under the demand on my loan. I got my $610,000 back, plus what little was left over went to his creditors. I didn't keep the house. Lynette's money built it, but his lies lived in it. Let someone else's kids grow up there happy. And me? I'm still here, in my own little unit at Kauai Grove, a retirement village I chose, with my own kitchen, a deck that catches the afternoon sun, and a memory care wing down the path that I've already paid 5 years toward for the day I need it, on my terms, signed on a clear morning with Judith beside me. I redid everything that month, enduring powers of attorney for property and for personal care and welfare, naming Heather and my niece in Dunedin, with the requirement that Dr. Sharma certify any activation and that they consult each other in writing. 2 attorneys, never one. A medical gatekeeper, always. Heather and I run a little kitchen table service now, no charge, helping other pensioners get their loans documented and their EPAs done properly. Our first client was a widower from my Wednesday group whose daughter wanted his Bach put in her name for tax reasons. We got him to a lawyer of his own instead. There've been 19 families since. Every single one started with the same sentence: I didn't want to seem like I didn't trust them. At the support group I met Lorraine. 66, retired school principal, diagnosed 8 months after me, husband shot through within a year of her diagnosis, couldn't handle it, she says, the way you describe weather. We have coffee after group, then it was lunches, now it's most things. In a few weeks we're going down to Milford Sound on a seniors coach tour, medical support and all. Aaron always told me Fjordland was too far, too cold, too risky for a man in my condition. I'm going to stand in front of Mitre Peak in my good jacket and let Lorraine take a photo, and that photo will be my answer to every too risky I've got left. Aaron writes from prison. He's doing a program for the gambling, working in the kitchens, says he's changed. Maybe he has. The letters go in a drawer, unanswered for now, not out of hate, but because trust isn't a feeling, it's a record, and his record needs more entries before I add mine. If he walks out of there and spends 2 years proving it with no money on the table, my door has a handle on his side too. But forgiveness without consequences isn't mercy. It's an invitation to do it again. If you're my age and you've made it this far with me, do an old fraud man 3 favors. First, never hand money to your children, not a deposit, not a bridge, not a cent, without it documented by your own lawyer, your own, not theirs, even if they sulk, especially if they sulk. The ones with honest intentions will sign without a second thought. It's only thieves who are insulted by paperwork. Second, set up your enduring powers of attorney while you're well, name 2 people, and build in a doctor's certificate before anyone can switch them on. Because the question is never whether you trust your family today, it's who you'd be handing the keys to on your worst day. And third, if you're being managed, corrected, spoken about in the third person while you're sitting right there, if your illness keeps coming up whenever your money does, write it down, tell your doctor, tell your lawyer, tell anyone. Silence is the thief's best friend, and shame keeps more old people poor than dementia ever will. A diagnosis took some of my words. It never took my worth. I'm Stuart Calloway, I'm 69, some days are foggy and the rest are mine, and I intend to spend every clear one of them upright, in the sun, with people who see a man and not an estate. Dignity isn't something age takes off you. It's something you hold on to with both hands, and by God, mine still grip. I keep coming back to one small moment in all of this, and it isn't the courtroom. It's Aaron at 26, signing those loan papers at Judith's office with a face like thunder, telling me I'd humiliated him by not simply trusting him. 12 years later, that piece of paper he resented was the only thing standing between me and a locked ward. Funny how it works. Nothing in this story happened by accident. Every result grew straight out of a choice somebody made, the way a tree grows out of a seed. Aaron didn't wake up one morning a criminal. He made 100 small choices first, a bet hidden here, a lie to Brooke there, a father quietly downgraded from person to problem, and the prison gate was just where all those choices were always leading. The same law worked for me, only in the other direction. I documented the loan when it felt unkind. I kept my notebook when it felt paranoid. I took my pills on time and told my doctor the truth when it felt like surrender. Each of those felt small on the day. Together, they were the verdict. If I've learned anything worth passing on at 69, it's that you get through a thing like this on 3 legs, and you need all 3. The first is plain decency. knowing what's right and refusing to let love talk you out of it. People told me a good father forgives anything. No. A good father holds the line, because forgiveness without consequences isn't kindness, it's handing the thief a second key. The second is a clear head. Not cleverness. I've got a disease eating my cleverness. I mean the discipline to look at facts instead of feelings, to get things in writing, to ask the awkward question while you still can. My memory fails me some days, but the file on my kitchen table never did. And the third is sheer grit, because knowing what's right and seeing it clearly count for nothing if you fold when it gets hard. There was a night before that hearing when I sat alone with Lynette's photo and very nearly rang Judith to call it all off. Standing up to a stranger is easy. Standing up to your own boy, with your own hands shaking, that's the hill. You climb it anyway. And here's the strange mercy of cause and effect. It doesn't only punish, it pays out. I held the line, and the line held me. I kept my house, my say, my dignity, and somewhere along the way I gained Lorraine, the work Heather and I do for other pensioners, and a coach ticket to Milford Sound. Aaron sowed deception and reaped a cell. I sowed paperwork and patience and reaped a life. If you're sitting where I sat, older, unwell, with family circling your money, remember the harvest always matches the seed. Do the right thing, do it with your eyes open, and don't you dare quit halfway. Your worst day is not who you are. What you do about it is.